A massive thanks to today's video sponsor Skillshare, the online learning community for creatives. Two very similar cars, they're both German, they're both V8, they're both naturally aspirated, they've both got similar amounts of power, they've got a lot in common, they're even the same price, but which one's better? We're going to find out in this video. A massive thanks to today's video sponsor Skillshare, the online learning community for creatives. Look, I know you lot are keen to see today's video, but let's give a quick brief on today's video sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creatives where millions of people come together to set their next step in their creative journey. Look, I was in a restaurant recently and I see a saying on the wall that said, everybody should have a hobby, and it's so true, man. So if you've got a hobby and you want to try and turn that hobby into a business, well, with Skillshare you can enhance on the knowledge that you have on that hobby and then maybe make a business out of it. Well, if you look at me as an example, that's exactly what I've done. I enjoyed making videos and I've made a career as a YouTuber by enhancing on my hobby. If you go on Skillshare, type in video editing as an example, you'll be faced with loads of classes from various creators where you'll be able to gain knowledge on that subject. I like this guy here, Ali Abdul. His class consists of 33 lessons, it's just 3 hours long, and I guarantee, don't matter who you are, after watching this, you'll definitely gain knowledge on this subject. And you know what, the list of classes they offer for various subjects is endless. Whether it's graphic design, web development, crafts, or even photography, I guarantee Skillshare have definitely got a class that suits you. It's dead easy to join their community and you can join for as little as £7 a month. And Skillshare are kindly offering the first 1,000 people that click the link in the description below a free trial for a limited time only. Come on man, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? So hit the link in the description below, give it a shot. If it ain't for you, at least you tried. It's all about trying. You've got nothing to lose and you never know, you might find that hobby slowly forming into a business. Let's get on with the video. Yeah, I reckon it's a good shout doing this video because they're so similar, these cars, aren't they? Like, they're obviously rear-wheel drive, they're four-door saloons. That's got a 6.2 litre V8 naturally aspirated engine under the bonnet, whereas that's just got a little 4 litre, I say little, was that little? 4 litre V8 naturally aspirated engine. They've got a lot in common. I actually bought these two cars off of the same guy. If you didn't see that video, go and click in the banner. It's up in that corner. Go and click that banner. I bought these two cars off him. I also bought an E36 M3 off him. This C63 has done, I think it's done about 75,000 miles, and the M3's done 30,000 miles. So right now in the used market, the M3 is actually more valuable. But on the assumption, if they had the same mileage, i.e. if the M3 had 70-odd thousand miles, they'd be the same price today. When they were new, they were both about 58 grand new. So depreciation, they're both depreciated at the same rate. And I think they're both loved equally throughout the car world. Like, many of us love an M3 and loads of us love C63 AMGs. I've actually been daily driving this car. Obviously those that follow me on Instagram would have seen it a lot on my Instagram. I absolutely love it, and that is why it is filthy dirty, which probably don't help this little test, does it? Because the AMG's dirty and the M3 was just parked up for sale on the site and it's all nice and clean and ready to go. But the C63 does without a doubt look amazing. Now as we wander around, we're going to tear the cars apart visually. This is not a video about spec levels because they've both got probably equally as good spec levels, but we're not talking about specs, we're just talking about the C63 AMG versus the E90 BMW M3, alright? So this is a 2012 car, that's a 2010, but again they're a similar era car, and they were both competitors of equally good German brands at the time they were built. So both got quad exhaust at the back. This is silly stuff, both got the 19-inch wheel option, which is it's very nice. They're both very nice sets of wheels. One thing I say is a negative about C63 AMGs is they have chunky front arches, and I'm almost bored of saying this because I say it all the time, and then the rear arches are the same arches that they've got on a diesel C-Class, hashtag diesel arches, right? Whereas if you come over to an M3, they've got nice chunky rear arches. They are not the arches of a 3 Series BMW, because that is not a 3 Series BMW, that is an M3. Something else that's a bit disappointing about C63 over the M3 is the M3 has an LSD from factory as standard, whereas the C63 doesn't. It's got a normal open diff, where I don't know, Matt, I just don't think that's acceptable for that calibre of car to have an open diff. Let me know your thoughts now. If you buy a Black Series, the Black Series has got fat rear arches, it's got a big spoiler on the back, and it does have an LSD, but Black Series is mega money. Even on the used market, I think they're upwards of £100,000. I don't think that's a comparable car. If we hop on the inside, I've left them both running. Let's get them warm. This one has nearly no fuel, by the way. Sakura orange interior. I did do a video about this car a long while ago. If you want to go to see that, feel free to go and check it out. Heated seats. This one does have the EDC button, which is quite an important spec option when you're looking for an M3. Carbon fibre sort of cloth dash. It's a very nice interior, very refined, very high quality, and obviously this car has only done 30,000 miles, so it's nice and tidy in there, yeah? Body colour, I prefer white. Forget about the body colour, that's irrelevant. This does look very nice in black. This car has got my life in it at the minute, because it is my life. It's a facelift car, so it is all very nice inside. Black interior, the seats, absolutely love them seats. We didn't really talk about the seats on the M3, did we? Let's quickly talk about them. I do like the seats on the M3 as well. So they've got little M badges, if we zoom in there, in the headrest, which is also very nice, yeah? Back over to the C63. What else can we talk about the interior of this car? I would say, if anything, this is probably more modern inside than the M3. Is that a fair thing to say? They didn't change too much between the pre-facelift and the facelifts of these cars, interior wise, so I don't know, maybe this is a little bit more modern. The pre-facelift versions of these cars, they've got a different dash, the infotainment system is situated a little bit differently, and the steering wheel on the pre-facelift is just like a big ugly lump of rubber. What else can we say? I think the next step of the journey, oh no, before we go on the next step, let's quickly have a little listen to both cars. So, let's go to the M3 first. The M3 is on tick over. It's got like almost like a nice ticking sound. I don't know if you can hear that through the video. Can you hear that? Sounds amazing. Cold starts are amazing. By the way, they've both got the automatic version of the gearbox. The M3s were available also as a manual. But for this experiment, it's obviously handy that they've both got the same gearbox, but forget about that. Have a little listen to this. Induction sound is unreal. Exhaust sound is unreal. It is a V8, it is naturally aspirated. You can't really go wrong with that setup. Now, but let's go over to the AMG, because this thing sounds absolutely unbelievable. Have a listen to this. The whole car wobbles. In fact, the whole bloody planet wobbles when you rev up the engine on this car. It sounds unbelievable. It's probably the highlighting factor of this car. Induction sound isn't quite as glorious as the induction sound on an M3, but the sound coming out the rear end of it definitely outweighs that sound under the bonnet. So I think what we'll do now is, I think we'll jump in the AMG first, shall we? And after we've had a drive in that, we'll jump in the M3, all right? So AMG first. You know what? Change of plan. I'm going to go out in the M3 first, purely because I daily drive that C63 and I'm very used to driving it. I know what it's about, and I feel like for me to sort of summarise this video, I think it'd be better for me to go out in the M3 first. But before we go, let's quickly talk about what's under the bonnet of these cars. Obviously, you know the engine sizes, but power. Power is what's important. Under the bonnet of the M3, we've got a 4-litre V8 naturally aspirated engine with 420 bhp and 295 pounds-feet of torque. This car weighs about 1,670 kilos. The C63 on the other hand is a 6.2 litre V8 naturally aspirated engine with 457 brake horsepower and 442 pounds-feet of torque, which is a hell of a lot more than the M3, and that weighs 1,730 kilos. So it's a little bit more, but the amount of power that it's got over this probably outweighs the weight of the car. So yeah, let's now hit the road. Very, very icy. That induction sound is so nice. I love the sound that comes from under the bonnet of these cars. They just sound so good. Get a heated seat turned down a little bit. Nice option that. I love a car with heated seats, you lot know that. Anyway, 7-speed dual clutch gearbox this has got, and then the AMG has got a 7-speed ZF torque converter style gearbox, which I actually really like. Both cars got some rather dated looking paddles behind the steering wheel. I am going to drive both cars in manual. This car does obviously have an LSD, and I'm straight away picking up that it just puts power down so much better. You don't get so much power loss through an open diff, and I just don't get why AMG done it. Maybe they just done it because they wanted to hold out all the good stuff for the Black Series. Maybe. Is that acceptable though? I don't know. Obviously in an M3 you've got the M button on the steering wheel, which if you press it you can feel the throttle response sharpen up, steering changes, you've got different traction control settings and so on. Puts the gearbox into a sports mode, and you can adjust all of that up on the infotainment system up here, which is all very nice and modern. I like that. Gear changes are nice and quick. Downshift, look at that, on point. Back end is wanting to disappear into that wall. Obviously it would do because of the current weather conditions. I love the sound of this car, literally love it. Do I like it better than the sound of the AMG? That camera look alright. That's probably a little bit better. Do I like it better than the sound of the AMG? We'll talk about that when we're out in the AMG in a sec. So, one thing I would say about this M3 is it does feel very high quality. It feels very solid. It feels very premium. It feels very, very well built. And that is, I would say, a quality that BMW have slightly more of than Mercedes, in my opinion. And I think a lot of this video is just going to be my opinion and not factual, because we'll try and conclude which car we think is the best car. I'm sure you lot will have your opinion in the comments below. Which car is going to be better? It's going to be difficult in it, but we'll always come back to Calvin's opinion, which is irrelevant, but it might help you choose which one you're going to buy if you're about to buy one. So yeah, it all feels very refined. It's all nice and cozy and comfortable. These seats are very comfortable. Not that that matters. Fuel economy wise, they're probably both as bad as each other on fuel, so that's quite pointless. The way this thing delivers power, I've driven loads of these on my channel, and back end it's probably the wrong day to talk about performance, but this is slightly slower to 60. I think this is 4.7 to 60 and that's 4.5 to 60. So this is a little touch slower, but day-to-day driving, are you really going to notice it? But one thing you probably would notice if you daily drove this over the C63, which I'm kind of feeling, is the difference in torque. And this does feel possibly a little lazier than the C63 and possibly less powerful. Well, it is less powerful. And I think on that note, what we should now do is jump in the AMG. Because I've been daily driving this for a good few weeks now, I've really got the hang of driving it. Now the open diff does kind of make it easier to drive. It's a bit more forgiving. You can sort of throttle it there, but you get a bit of understeer every now and then, which you shouldn't get in a rear-wheel drive car. It kind of doesn't go in the direction you want it to at times, and you do feel yourself losing power, like I said earlier, through the wheel that is locked or not spinning as it should. So yeah, bit of a funny one that, but putting that aside, it is an absolutely amazing car. I think what I'll do is, for this journey, I'm going to go right up here because there's less houses and less people in this direction. Obviously it is a nightmare today because of the weather conditions. I think it's about 2 degrees or something. I don't even know where the temperature is in this car. Something I want to say is, with this car, I just put it in manual with this little dial down here, and I turn the traction control off. There is no fancy there is a drive select mode down here, but I don't generally mess around with it. I just stick it in manual and jobs are good in. It on the dials in front of you, you put it in like an AMG mode, I think that's what they call it. It's got the oil temperature, the water temperature, the gear shift, and I think that's about it. All the important things that you'd want to see in front of you if you're having a little tear up in your C63. Gearbox, there is no adjustment to the speed or the ferocity of the gear change, whereas in the M3 you do have that. So you've got a lot more adjustment on the M3 than you do on this car, and I suppose this is more just getting it and drive it. The valves and the exhaust, I think they're always open. It's always in beast mode, this car. It just sounds ridiculously loud all the time. And going back to the thing I said earlier, which car do I prefer the sound of? I absolutely prefer the sound of this car. Like, one of the things that's motivated me or encouraged me to daily drive this car is the sound. I'm just in love with that sound. I love it. I love the sound. So yeah, it's definitely got that going for it. The throttle response and the power delivery, because that's a really important factor. This car just feels so responsive. It feels so lively and so much more powerful. I don't want to say so much more powerful because that's probably a bit of an exaggeration, but it does feel a bit more alive than the M3 does, right? Not to say that the M3 doesn't feel quick, because if anyone drove that M3, they'd be extremely impressed with how it delivers power and how fast it is, all right? So don't sort of see that as a negative, but it's definitely a positive that the C63 has over the M3. One thing I would say about overall characteristics of this car over the M3 is this car has absolutely no character. I mean, the seats are lovely, right? The engine is amazing, but the engine is kind of the sole personality of this car. Without this engine, this would not be an exciting car. But the M3, on the other hand, it's got so much going for it. I was just driving it back just now, and I do like summarising the gearboxes. I think the M3's got a better gearbox. Seems to be a bit of a quicker gear change. The overall look of the M3, I think it's a more attractive car. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, but not to say that I dislike the look of this car, because I definitely don't. See, then you kind of don't. There's third gear. We've got full traction there in third gear. I was going to say, you kind of don't know where the rear end's going to go, but forget about that. When you look over the bonnet of the M3, you've got a nice bonnet bulge. I love that. You look at the mirrors of this car, I'm sure they're the same mirrors that a normal C-Class has got, whereas if you look at the mirrors of an M3, they have just put a massive amount of effort into the shape of the mirrors on that car. The overall appearance, I think, of the M3 is slightly better, which I just said, I think. I did definitely just say that. But like I say, not to say that this car isn't unattractive, but the really funny thing about this car over the M3 is I've got the option today to drive this home or drive the M3 home, right? And you'd think, especially me being me, I get bored of cars so quickly. You'd think I'd be bored of this car by now, because I've been daily driving it for probably a good month now. And I'm telling you now, I am not bored of this car. I am choosing to drive this car out of every car that we've got in stock at the minute daily, because I absolutely love it. If I was to pull it apart and look for things that need improvement, I would say it's probably could do with being a bit more modern. But then there is a new C63 out, isn't there? I'm just saying new, it's been out for bloody years. So this is the old car, and it is actually really, really good for the old version of, considering the year of time that this was created. I think it's such a bloody good car. The infotainment system just works. There's nothing too exciting. It doesn't offer loads, but it all works really well. And the engine, you'll never ever get bored of that. But to summarise whether I think this is better than the M3, I actually think the M3 is a better car. There's something more special about the M3. But like I keep saying, what is really strange is that I would choose to daily drive this car over that. Maybe because it is a bit more modern. Maybe this offers me as a daily driver a bit more. I don't know. But I think also in years to come, the M3, like today, they're both worth, like I said, if they both had the same mileage today, they'd both be worth about £20,000, right? In years to come, I think the M3 value will probably creep up slightly higher and slightly quicker than the values of these will. Don't mark my words on that. I don't know, but I just feel like the M3 is just a little bit more special. Now, I hope if you are about to buy one of these cars, I've helped you conclude which one you might buy. But I think the bottom line is they're both very, very good cars. They're both special in their own way. But the C63, the full character and personality of this car is right there underneath the bonnet. That engine is a seriously special engine, and I don't think you could ever get bored of it. Like, response, the throttle response at any step of the way for a naturally aspirated engine is unreal. Alright, I'm going to end it there. Thanks for everyone that sort of voted on board with doing this video. I think it was a great shout for a video, very good suggestion. It was definitely needed, and I think a lot of people will see a lot of value in it. So thanks very much for watching. If you did like this video, do me a favour, hit the like button. If you are new to my channel, hit subscribe. I'm currently trying, or I always try to upload a new video every Wednesday and Sunday at 6 o'clock. And I'm also on Instagram. Give me a follow on Instagram at Calvin's Car Diary, and I'll see you in my next video. Alright, bye. In the next episode of Diary of a Car Trader, it's another day in my life as a car trader, which involves this Kia and this BMW M3.